I have two brief questions I'd like to ask, if I may.
Hi, welcome to Left Foot Media. My name is Brendan Malone and you're watching The Daily Question. Today's question of the day: why shouldn't we treat allegations as truth? In this episode, I want to give you 3 really good reasons why you need to test every accusation or group of accusations that is made against a person of serious wrongdoing. And the reason I'm making this video today is because in the past week, the circus that is the Kavanagh nomination has just descended into, I want to say absolute farce, but it's worse than that. It's really, really troubling what it is now descended into. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But the point is this: you need to test allegations, and you should never assume that an allegation is true. An allegation should not be believed just because it is made, no matter how difficult it might be for someone to actually make an allegation, even if that allegation is true, no matter what might be at stake for them in making that allegation. There are 3 really good reasons why we need to test allegations. First reason is this: is because the person could be just out and out lying. They might have some sort of nefarious intent or some sort of political motivation, and so they are telling lies for whatever reason. They know they're lying, they're making up a story, they have deliberately crafted this thing to cause harm, to do damage to another person and to their reputation. So that's the first possibility. Number 2 is because of the fact that the person who's making the accusation may have some sort of neurological or psychological condition which is actually causing them to present a false allegation against another person. So they're not like a liar. This is not nefarious. They're not deliberately doing this. They might not even realize that they are not telling the truth, that they are making a false claim here. But because of some condition that they experience, they are prone to making false allegations, false accusations against another. And number 3, and this is a really, really important one. Number 3 is because memory is a notoriously unreliable thing, especially when you allow more time to pass between the alleged incident and the actual accusation being made, so the time you recall the incident. We know this, we've studied this. I'm going to post a link in the video description below to a really important article that everyone needs to read about just how unreliable memory can be, even around traumatic events. We know that people, this has been studied, and people can give an account of an event close to a very traumatic event happening, and then they will go back, in studies, they will go back to those people subsequently, and they will get them to recount their memories again, and they will find that not only have they changed, but often they are also now telling a story that is completely contradictory to the first initial recall, very close to the actual events that they gave. This is really important because what it means is you can have a person like Ford who can be the victim of a genuine assault, but who also is falsely accusing an innocent person because their memory is letting them down. You can pass a polygraph test, by the way, if you are experiencing reason number 2 or number 3, because you would not know that you were lying. You would not know that what you're saying is false. You would genuinely believe that what you're saying is true. And so it's really important that we test allegations, because those 3 reasons, and as I said, 2 of those reasons don't even have to be nefarious. The person doesn't have to be a liar. And in one of those reasons, the person can actually be the genuine victim of a real sexual assault and still can end up accusing a wrong person. They can accuse an innocent person. This has happened and does happen. And so it's really important that we don't start from this position of saying, okay, well, if they've said it, it must be true. That is a very, very dangerous place to start from. And when you structure your society on that approach to the question of justice, is a person guilty or innocent? Well, they must be guilty because someone's made such a serious allegation, and why else would they make such a serious allegation? We are creating a recipe for absolute disaster. We are creating a recipe for absolute and total injustice, where a lot of innocent people are going to have their lives destroyed and possibly are going to even end up finding themselves in situations where they are imprisoned for things that they had nothing to do with. Now, by the way, in this particular case here, the Kavanagh case, I keep hearing people say, but I find her particularly credible, or I find him particularly credible. Here's the thing, that is totally irrelevant. It is totally irrelevant to guilt or innocence, to truth or falsehood, how credible you happen to find a person, whether they are the accused or the accuser. It doesn't mean a thing. Credibility is simply the sense that you as a personal individual subject, have a sense that that person has presented their case in such a way that you find it emotionally satisfying, that it satisfies your personal subjective criteria, your personal discernment criteria for what you think passes the sniff test of credibility. But here's the thing, that sniff test that you apply to that situation and you use to judge that person's credibility is notoriously unreliable, and it's totally arbitrary. You're making these assumptions about a person's guilt or innocence based solely on things like their body posture, how they speak, the tone of their voice, how quickly they respond, how quickly they recall certain events, the way they might talk to a person, the way that they might respond, whether it's sharp or whether it's more kind, the way their eyes might look. There are so many things that you are assessing, and then you are using those things as a judgment of credibility. And that's without even including things like your personal political biases or any other biases that you might have. You might yourself have been the victim of unjust or immoral treatment at the hands of men, and so you have a particular vulnerability in that area to passing judgment prematurely about men who are accused, other men who are accused of these things. But the point is this, that you finding someone credible doesn't prove that they are guilty or that they are innocent. It just doesn't. The most credible seeming people can also be the most guilty ones. The most uncredible people can also be the ones who are totally innocent. Why? Because there's lots of reasons why people might fail those particular criteria, judgment criteria that you are using to determine their credibility or lack of credibility. What's going on now with the Kavanaugh trial? Like I said, this has descended into more than just farce. This has all the hallmarks of a witch trial. You have accusations, very, very serious accusations that have been made. But you don't have a lot of corroborating evidence to back up those accusations, yet they are still being treated by a lot of people as if they are true. Not only that, but you also have evidence which contradicts the accusations that are being made. And on top of that, you have a huge and totally out of control public hysteria that is going on around this particular incident. Here's the thing, this is a moment in history where more than ever before, people need to take a long, hard, deep breath, sit down and spend some time reading about the Salem witch trials, or spend some time reading To Kill a Mockingbird. And they need to remember the fact that hysterical witch hunting mobs are not how genuine justice is dispensed. And in fact, they are extremely dangerous, because the usual outcome of that is that innocent people have their lives destroyed. The simple fact is that we don't know the full story here yet. And yet there are a lot of people who have rushed to judgment and are making extremely rash decisions based solely on things like, well, the accusations have been made, so why shouldn't we believe them? You know, you wouldn't accuse a person of sexual assault, because why would you do that unless it was true? Well, as I said, I've given you 3 good reasons why that could happen. And 2 of those reasons, you don't actually have to be a malicious and nefarious liar at all. You can simply be wrong and still be a person who is genuine in your belief about these issues, right? And not have any malicious intent at all. Whatever happens in this case, no matter where the guilt or innocence actually lies, we should not be embracing this current approach that we see unfolding around us right now. This highly and absurdly out of control public hysteria where a person has been put on trial and we are not even properly examining the facts of the case. One thing that's happened in the last week is a couple of males have come forward and claimed that they are the ones who actually were the perpetrators of what happened to Ford, and that she's remembering this incident wrong by accusing Kavanaugh. It's actually them that are the ones that are guilty of this. Now, what was interesting to me is, number one, that particular event has received very little media coverage, and secondly, the coverage or the commentary I have seen about it, a lot of people are actually suggesting that they've got politicised reasons for doing this, and this is not true, and these men shouldn't be believed. Now, what's interesting is that I'm pretty confident that those same people who are saying you shouldn't believe these men and it's all just politicised are the very same people who would say, well, we should believe every accusation of sexual assault and rape, because why would someone put themselves through that? Well, if you believe that to be true, why wouldn't you actually accept someone who comes forward and says, hey, I'm actually guilty of doing this heinous thing? that someone else has been accused of, surely they have even more reason not to go public and instead stay silent and allow someone else to take responsibility for their actions. Why would they put themselves through that? The public shame of being labelled a rapist or an attempted rapist or a perpetrator of sexual assault? Why the heck would someone come forward and do that? It seems to me there's lots of big questions here, and that we should not be jumping to any conclusions at all, but instead that's the exact opposite that's happening. And it's really, really troubling, because this is not how justice is dispensed at all. This is an out-of-control witch trial, and it's only a matter of time before it just starts claiming a whole lot more scalps in the process. And we should all be extremely concerned by that. As I said, take a deep breath and go and read about Atticus Finch. Go and read To Kill a Mockingbird. Go and read about the Salem witch trials. And then reevaluate exactly what it is that you are using, the criteria that you are applying in these situations. As per usual, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if you like the content I'm creating and you'd like to see more of it, then please support me on PayPal or Patreon. There's a link for both in the video description below. That's right, I can hear my theme music too. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily Question.